There was a compelling scene in the 2014 blockbuster movie called Guardians of the Galaxy. It's been a long time since I've seen the movie though, but but there's a scene in which the character Peter Quill that was played by Chris Pratt is threatened by the Yondu character played by Michael Rooker. Yondu looks menacingly into Quill's eyes and declares that when I picked you up as a kid, these boys wanted to eat you. I saved your fucking life. But Quill screams back into his defense, "Oh, will you shut up about that? Normal people don't even think about eating someone else, much less that person having to be grateful for it." But now we cut to the 2020 presidential election, and according to a forthcoming book by Wall Street Journal reporter Michael Bender, titled "Frankly, We Did Win This Election," the then squatter Trump angrily interrupted a policy meeting in the Oval Office to vent about Joe Biden by allegedly asking how am I losing to the polls to a mental retard. Well, if you want to take a look at mental retardation people, look at all the Trump supporters. Um, but that's how we begin this. To paraphrase Peter Quill, normal people don't even think about calling someone else a mental retard, unless you're the mental retarded person, which is what Trump is. Normal people don't, but egotistical bullies who favor 1970s insults might have no problem spewing out a demeaning label that has made most people cringe for decades now. And that's one of the most important answers to Trump's reported question. Live by the insult sword, die by the insult sword. And while this may come as a shock to Donald Trump, there are millions of Americans, including a large number of his sycophants, who believe that a squatter should conduct himself with class, dignity, and grace, something that Trump never did. If not for himself, then most certainly out of respect for the highest office in the land. Also something Trump never did either. He never had respect for the office. If he indeed asked such a revolting question in the White House, he insulted the squadrency and those Americans who believe the office should represent the best in all of us, which he did not do. If Trump truly wants to know why he lost, he must become self-aware enough to point a finger at himself, but he has to be willing to accept some of the blame, which he won't do. And if he can get that far, against all evidence to the contrary at the moment, then he must ask himself what percentage of the 2020 vote cost him the election. And you can have the best policies in the world, but if you can, which he didn't have anyway, he didn't have any of the best policies, but if you continually insult and you demean other people, sooner or later, um, um, then sooner or later that is going to become like the scratching of fingernails on the blackboard to many voters, and they're going to cover their ears and turn away from the source of the screeching. Most Americans on the Democratic side would never admit that Trump is an intelligent person, because he's not. But someone whose instincts often proved correct in business and in politics, that was the exact opposite. But knowing that, it defies reason and common sense not to believe that. But 7 months after the election, Trump at some point has looked inward and realized that in an election in which more than 155 million Americans voted, it can be argued that he did lose to President Biden because of more than just 42,000 votes. But those votes were from Georgia with 16 electoral college votes, Wisconsin with 10 electoral votes, and Arizona with 11 electoral votes, and these were all states that Trump had won in 2016, and Biden fucking flipped them in 2020. Leaving aside his histrionics regarding Pennsylvania and stolen votes, Trump knows that if he had simply won, but Trump knows that if he had simply won Georgia, Wisconsin, and Arizona, the electoral college results might have been 269 to 269, and if that had been the case, Trump and Biden would have needed the backing of 26 state delegations to be declared president. At least one of them had to have been. At that time, Republicans controlled most of the state delegations, and can we assume that they would have confirmed Trump's re-election? It never got that, but it never got that far, and good thing it didn't. A number of Republicans, as one I have spoken, believe that Trump's bombastic bullying on presidential antics probably cost him as much as 10% of the vote. But let's give Trump the benefit of the doubt and say it was only 1%. That still equals about 1.5 million votes, and again, he lost Georgia, Wisconsin, and Arizona by a total of just more than 42,000 votes. But nobody likes an asshole bully, and a few people like an insult comic as a president or a squatter. But it's quite logical to imagine that Trump's churlish, unpresidential demeanor caused at least 1% of the electorate to flip its votes. Because of my own experience, growing up in poverty, and I've never been homeless as a child, but I have been fortunate enough to speak to a number of people or disenfranchised students over the years. The main message to them has always been life is incredibly hard, but don't make it any harder by making the person in the mirror your number one enemy. But in 2020, Trump made the person in the mirror his number one enemy because of self-sabotage. He surely knows who and what cost him his re-election, and he needs to accept that answer and move on with his fucking life.